Well, good morning. Today is Thursday the 20th of August, and today in the Moravian readings we're reading Luke chapter 19 verses 1 to 10. Luke chapter 19 verses 1 to 10. It's a famous passage. It's the story of Zaccheus and his encounter with Jesus and how life transforming that encounter was. To be honest with you, having been brought up in the church, I can't remember the number of times that I've coloured in little pictures of a little man up a tree waiting for Jesus, or the number of times that I've cut out little figures to play a game of Zaccheus bringing Jesus to his house. This story is so much part of my childhood upbringing that the danger with that is that I can sometimes miss it. I miss any greater significance than it was a nice story and isn't it lovely? But the truth is that this story has some important things to say to us. And I want to just share a couple of thoughts this morning about this passage. You know, Zaccheus, his name means pure. And I find that just a fascinating reality. Here was a man who all of his people around him, his friends and his community that he lived in, purity would probably be the last thing that they would acquaint with him. The last thing they would say, oh, that's a pure man, Zaccheus. And yet something in his name was there. And when Jesus calls out to Zaccheus, he calls his name. He says, pure one, Zaccheus. You know, I wonder how often Jesus calls out things in our lives that we don't see, that people around us don't see. You know, I've had occasions in my life when I've felt really bad about something. I made a really stupid choice, and God will call forth and call me wise, because he's calling forth in me something that is an attribute that he's placed within me. It's his spirit at work in me, and he calls it forth. And I wonder this morning what God might be saying over your life. Just as he called Zaccheus the pure one, the one who didn't think he was pure, but Jesus saw it and called him pure. I wonder what Jesus is saying about your life today, what he's calling out over your life. Take a moment and think about it and ask him, speak to me. Give me let me hear the sound of your voice calling a name over my life, calling forth that positive attribute. The other thing that struck me about this book, about this passage, is that at the moment with some friends we're studying this book called We Need to Talk About Race by Ben Lindsay. And in the book, when it comes to talking about racial integration, he talks specifically about the need for reparations for the slave trade. That's making compensation to those who have suffered as a result of the slave trade. And it's an enormously complicated discussion. And but he uses the story of Zaccheus as an example of where it's needed not just to repent and say we're sorry, but we actually need to do something about it. But the thing about Zaccheus was that Zaccheus was a wealthy man, and the problem wasn't his wealth, it was the abuse of his power that gained him his wealth. And when you look at slavery, the problem with slavery was the abuse of power to generate wealth. And when we talk about making reparation, it's not just a financial issue, it's an issue of who will we give power to? Who will we empower that wasn't empowered before? I'm a white male. I have the privilege of having the most empowered life, if you like, in society. And the challenge for me is, as somebody with power, who will I give power to? Who will I look to correct the imbalance by giving power away to? And how can I do that effectively? Now, the reality is with the slave trade and those sort of issues, there probably requires a wealth element to it. But something we can all do today is to say, where do I have power, and who can I empower? Using my power, who can I empower to live a more fulfilled life? Who can I empower so that the community of the church, the community that I live in, the society I live in, gets the benefit of that person fully contributing to the society that we have? Challenging for me, and I'm sure it's challenging for you too. I hope you have a great day. Thanks for listening.